Welcome back everyone to part 2 of the basic king and pawn ending series. In this video we will be discussing about the trebuchet position. So the trebuchet position is characterized by the pawns being on the same file and each side is attacking the enemy pawn and simultaneously defending his own pawn. So the trebuchet position is a position of reciprocal zugzwang, meaning that the player to move will lose the game. So currently it's black to move, he is forced to leave his pawn undefended, and white wins with king takes d5. So when one is faced with a situation like this, the first thing to take into consideration is who can actually reach the key square first. The player who can first reach the key square can effectively force his opponent into a trebuchet position. So here the key square for white is d6 and the key square for black is f3. And you can see that it takes both sides 2 moves to reach the key squares. However, in this position it's white to move, so he is able to force black into a trebuchet situation. King c5. So here king d5 would be a big mistake because of king to f4, and white is the one in trebuchet position. So after king c5, black doesn't want to play king f4 because white wins with king d5. And if king g4, king d6, forcing black to defend his pawn, king d5, and now black is in zugzwang. And the resulting king and pawn ending is winning for white. King c5, back to the main position. Black, however, does not have to enter into this trebuchet position. We will now see how black can best defend this. King d6. So now black has to relinquish control of his pawn. But here king f7, and this is the key idea. Black has to give up the pawn and be in position to gain the opposition, because after king takes e5, black plays king to e7, he has the opposition, and this is a draw. And black draws by following the principles that we have already discussed in part 1 of this series. I'm just going to play through this real quick. King e6, and this is stalemate. We will now make a slight adjustment to the position. So here white's pawn is 1 rank higher up the board. And the same defensive idea does not work for black. For example, something like this. After king takes d6, king to d8, black gets the opposition. But unfortunately for black, this is losing, because if you remember in part 1 of the series, a king on the 6th rank and a pawn on the 5th is a win for the stronger side. After king e6, king to e8, d6, king d8, d7, and black can't step back with his king. After king c7, white wins with king e7 and promotion. So we can pretty much conclude that if the stronger side can force his opponent into trebuchet position and he has the pawn on the 5th rank, then it's going to be a winning position. So moving on to the next example where looks can be deceiving. On first glance, it seems that white is the one who should be forcing the trebuchet position, since his king appears to be closer to the pawns. But in reality, it takes 3 turns for white to get to c6. Well, it only takes 2 turns for black to get to e3. Thus, black will first reach the key square. So white can try and defend with king c3 and go for the defensive idea we have seen earlier, where white is going to give up the pawn and gain the opposition, and this is going to be a draw since the pawn is on the 4th rank for black. But let's see what happens if white tries to force this trebuchet with king b4, king f4. So here if king c5, king e4 wins, king b5, king to e3, forcing white to go king c5, king e4, putting white in zugzwang, and here black wins. I'm going to cap things off with one more example. So this appears to be a more complex situation with extra pawns on the board. But if we utilize the concepts that we have discussed earlier, then it becomes much simpler. So here the side which is closer to the key squares, after both sides eliminate the pawns, will end up winning the game. So after king takes g6, king takes b3, we can see that black is closer to the key square and he is going to win this game. After king f5, king c3, and black wins. So here king c4 would be a big mistake because of king e5 and black is in zugzwang, but here king c3, king e5, king c4, and black will end up winning this pawn and eventually the game. That is all for this video. Hopefully you found these tutorials helpful, and if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Thanks for watching.